Hi, I'm Chet Haas, an engineer on the Android team at Google. I work on graphics and animation. Today I wanted to talk about a way of using a class called ViewPropertyAnimator, which was introduced in the 3.2 release. And this is a way to animate properties of views in a very easy way. It's kind of like setting the value of one of the properties on the view, but having it animate to that value instead of just atomically switch to it. So there's much more I could go into about ViewPropertyAnimator in general. What we're going to see today is an effect where we can use ViewPropertyAnimator to crossfade between different images in a picture viewer. So let's take a look at the demo. So we saw another demo in a previous episode where we used transition drawable to do something similar, although that particular drawable animation is about switching just between two images. This one's a little bit more general purpose where we have a set of images in here that we've loaded, and we're going to crossfade as we go between them. And we'll just keep going through the entire set of images. A little bit more general purpose. So as we click on the image, we get a nice fading effect as we go to the next image, and on, and then we just cycle around. I only have 4 images loaded in here for the purposes of this demo. So pretty pictures, not terribly interesting demo, but let's take a look at the code. So we have this class called PictureViewer, and in it I'm just hard coding these. I'm just loading in these small images that I had. Not the way to go for a general picture viewing application, obviously, but it does for this purpose, which is to demonstrate using ViewPropertyAnimator and crossfading between these things. So we have 2 image views that we're going to fade between, where we're going to put these resources. And we're going to, first of all, set up the ViewPropertyAnimator on these views to have a duration of 1000. One thing to be aware of with ViewPropertyAnimator is the way that you use it is by calling view.animate, and that returns you a reference to the ViewPropertyAnimator, which all views have. So they only have that one instance inside them, although it's unique to that view. So if you want to change the persistent properties on a ViewPropertyAnimator, such as the duration, then you call .animate and then call the setter. In this case, we're setting the duration to be 1000. I should point out that is too long for a general purpose UI animation, but for the purposes of actually demonstrating this today, in this video, I tend to use longer durations so you can actually see the animation depending on the frame rate of the video. Then we create bitmap drawables from these hard-coded images, these drawables that I defined above. Nothing very interesting going on there. And then for the previous and the next image view, we populate them with the first and second drawable there. And then when we click, this is where all the interesting stuff happened, we basically perform 2 animations in parallel. We're going to animate the existing image that everybody can see out, and we're going to animate and we're going to fade the new image, the next image, in. And then when it's done, we're going to restore some values, and then we're going to set up the references to which images we're currently showing so that we can keep cycling through the set of images that we have. So here we're going to animate the alpha property, which is the translucency property of the previous image. It is currently 1 because that's the image that the user is currently seeing. And we're going to animate it by saying animate, which returns this ViewPropertyAnimator object, .alpha 0. So this is basically saying I want you to animate, I want to set the alpha property to 0, but I want you to animate it there over whatever your duration is. And we're going to call with layer, and I'll explain that in a moment. This is sort of an important element to understand for performance tuning. And then next image view, instead of fading that out like the previous one, we're going to fade it in. So as the old one fades out, we're going to fade the new one in. So you can think of them as sort of sitting on top of one another. We're going to cross-fade them by fading one out and fading the other one in all at the same time. And then there's a new API that was added. I believe this is in Jelly Bean, and it's called with end action. And you can mimic this in prior releases simply by setting a listener on a ViewPropertyAnimator and doing the same exact thing. This is just a little bit more terse way of doing that. You can say when this animation is done, then I want you to perform the following actions. We're going to update our references so that we know which images we're actually looking at right now, and then we're going to restore some alpha properties. So we're going to set the alpha property of 1 to 0 and set the other alpha property to 1 so that they're at a good state to animate from for the next transition that we do. Now I want to get back to this with layer thing. This is important. When you're animating a complex view or complex view hierarchy, it's important to use a layer on that object, especially if you've noticed a frame rate problem because the system can't keep up with redrawing that thing from scratch every time during the animation. An easy way to do that is to set a layer type on that object. So you simply call view.setLayerType and set it to a hardware layer, for example. And this API that we have here as of Jelly Bean, the with layer API, is a way for us to do that for you. So you could do that when you run the animation. You could say set layer type on the view, and then you could put some more code in here with your end action, or you could set a listener for the end of the animation and then reset that layer or remove that layer. But we'll do that automatically for you if you call the with layer method. So today's episode was about View Property Animator, and specifically using View Property Animator to get a very easy crossfade operation between different representations of views. Thanks.